Asher is in some ways a really typical 4-year-old, but then he's just got little pieces that are quirky and not quite there. Sometimes he would have these meltdowns, and they'd get pretty big. I mean, he would push all the books off the shelf in the living room, or one time he even flipped the coffee table. And it was more than just your typical 2-year-old, I want more lollipops or whatnot. And we were in the process of getting a diagnosis for him, and we were thinking it was going to be an autism diagnosis, but we weren't sure. And CDS recommended North Star Learning Center with Easter Seals, and so we came in, and we weren't really sure. We were kind of like, you know, is this going to be the right fit? We don't even know what's going on with him. And the amazing thing was right off the bat, they just said, whatever's going on, we're going to help him. I remember the first day I actually left him at school, and I went home and I sat next to the phone. I think it was tough for him as well, in that he hit all of his milestones until he was about 18 months. He was walking at 10 months, and by 18 months he was saying no thank you and more please, and was just doing really great. And then he started losing the words, and started not meeting milestones. And then I noticed little things like he wouldn't respond to his name, and he would stare off at a shadow for like 15, 20 minutes. Just sort of unusual things that didn't quite fit together. And now he's speaking in full sentences, and he's asking friends to play, and he can tell me about his day, and just really incredible things that don't seem like a big deal to parents with typical kids, but he's using scissors, and he's trying to copy drawing lines now, and he's just really aware of the world, and he is introducing his brother to people when we're out and about, and it's just incredible to have this child who now never stops talking. And I don't know what I would do if Easter Seals hadn't opened him up like that, because before I really felt like I was losing my child, and I didn't know what was going on in his little mind. And I think that every parent really looks forward to that moment when they start to get an inkling of what their child's thinking and how they perceive the world, and that just wasn't coming. And I'm absolutely convinced that Melissa and her team in Purple Stars just sort of like magically unlocked him, and it's been floodgates ever since. New things every day. The staff to me is like family. I don't even know where to start in describing the differences they've made for Asher and for our family. I used to be a teacher myself, and you do forget the students' names over time. They all kind of blur together, and you remember the faces, but I know that even if they forget him and they forget our family and the difference they've made, I will never, never forget any of them. They have such love and patience, and I didn't really know that anyone could dig that deep for my kiddo except for me. And every day when I drop him off, they're pushing him to do more, and they're extending this wealth of patience that I didn't even really know existed in the world. They're really incredible people, and I don't think they know that either, and that makes it all the more magical, is that every day they're trying harder because they don't even know how great they are.
It doesn't really matter what branch. There's this sort of guttural thing that says, I got this. In the Army, ours is huh. And so we carry that huh mentality, that hoorah, that, you know, whatever it is for your particular branch, and we carry that on. And we've earned a sort of badge of honor with being resilient, being able to push through diversity. I served for about 4.5 years in the Army, stationed at various places, but mostly at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And I served in both Afghanistan and Iraq. I moved to Maine for a job. I graduated with a master's in social work in Florida and pretty quickly got offered a job here in Maine. I was transitioning from homelessness, and that job sort of, I thought it was going to be happening relatively quickly, but then we hit some snags and I really wasn't sure when that job was going to start. So we kind of picked up our life without anywhere to go and not really sure what to do there. I had continued to look for part-time work in the meantime of waiting for that job to start. Then I started working with Sally as my case manager. And Sally really helped me figure out what I needed, because I didn't know at that time what I needed. Oh man, if we had not come into contact with Easter Seals, I think that there's a strong chance that we would have spent some time as homeless again. You know, there was at the time when I came into contact with Easter Seals, we were transitioning and we were newly housed, and I was just about to start this new job. And I think that if the heat hadn't come together and the car transfer wouldn't have come together, and the child care, most importantly, wouldn't have come together, then I wouldn't have been able to go to work. I wouldn't have been able to pay my rent, to pay everything, to really just, you know, live. I think that many of my peers, other veterans in positions like myself, hesitate to reach out because we think maybe I'm not bad off enough. I don't need the help as much as these other people. And I, in fact, had those feelings myself. Had I not been referred, I'm not sure I would have made those calls to get that referral started myself. But I'm so thankful that people were looking out for me and reassured me that, yes, you do qualify for this need, and yes, you need it just as much as anybody else, and it's okay to take the help.
I would just say that if you just got a diagnosis for your child and found out that they're autistic, that it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to relate to your child. It means that you have to find a back door. You're going to have to find a different way to relate to them, and that the community, because it really is a community at North Star Learning Center, they can help you find that, and they can help you get to know your child in a completely different way than you've ever gotten to know anybody in the world, and that it will open you up, it will make you a better person, and that you will in some ways be closer to your child who has this huge diagnosis than your typical kiddos, and that autism can be in its own way a remarkable gift. And that it's a tool. You can't get overwhelmed with hearing the word autism, that really your child is the same person they were yesterday. It's just today you know how to start helping them, and today you know who you can go to get that help. And so you can start down that road of getting to know your child that you've been missing out on the last couple of years.
We need to work, we want to work, but sometimes we get caught in these situations, I know I did, where I needed that little bit of help to reach my goals of just working. And the services that Easter Seals provided allowed me to blossom and allowed me the space, the breathing room to be able to reach my goals. And I'm sure that had that not happened, I could have lost the job that I got by not having that little bit of help that I needed.
I love this place. I would keep Asher here until he was 21 if I could, but unfortunately you only get a couple years of early intervention.